And welcome to another episode of Community Viewpoint. I'm John Pollock, your host for this. Should I say it's an episode? But anyway, welcome to Community Viewpoint. Today we have with us Tamalyn Taylor from the Communities Coalition, and we also have a local gardener from Pahrump. We have Cherry McCormick,
Thank you.
who I've known both of you for many years. We're going to be talking about something that is brand new. It'll be starting April 1st when the state of Nevada launches the first Food Waste Awareness Month. And that'll be through the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection. And you brought that up to me, Tamalyn. So could you identify that a little bit? I know we waste a lot of food here, so what do we have to look forward to?
Yes, it seems United States as a whole is wasting a lot of food. And you may have seen it yourself, maybe in some larger organizations like schools, restaurants, or even the casinos. And there's lots we can do about that. So what we're trying to do is get everybody a little bit more aware of where the waste occurs and strategies to prevent it. So for instance, if you in your own home, there might be places you're wasting food. In my classes at Communities Coalition, we teach different strategies, shopping strategies, but also prepping and preparing food. So, and we also are talking a lot about how do you increase fruits and vegetables. So you get all these fresh fruits and vegetables at home, but what happens sometimes is you can't use it all up before it goes bad. So there's certain things you can do to either stretch those vegetables into many dishes or store them properly so you're not ending up throwing things away. One thing to think about, say you want to increase your vegetables and you get all kinds of good stuff in your refrigerator. Well, some last longer than others. For instance, if you think of maybe asparagus, that's a spring crop right now. It's in season, but that may not last quite as long, say like a head of cabbage or carrots, beets, potatoes. Some of those root vegetables last a lot longer. So when you bring it all home to your home, you want to use up the stuff that spoils fastest first. That just makes sense, right? Or say you picked up a whole bunch of bananas, but you're not sure if you can get through the whole thing right away. So what you can do is as they get towards the end and maybe start getting some spots on them, you can take the peels off and put them in the freezer. And that way they're good for smoothies or they're good for kind of a fake ice cream. You blend it all up and you can make some really good stuff from frozen bananas. So that's just a couple things to think about with fresh fruits and vegetables.
I thought you were going to say make banana bread.
You can make banana bread. That's the classic thing, of course, but that requires some sugar usually. So I'm thinking of stuff that may not be added sugars. What else? Thinking about, say, when you're prepping your salads or soups or whatever, is sometimes you'll be ending up cutting off parts of the vegetable. Well, save that in a container because what you can do with that is make soup stock. Also, you might have some just totally leftover stuff that you can use for composting, say. But there's all kinds of things to do. So I have this sack usually or container right when I'm making salads. I'll put things in or soups, like I say. It may not be enough to do that right at the moment. So I'll just put that whole thing in the freezer until I do have enough. And then once you make the soup stock, you can put it in smaller containers. Like I've even used like ice cubes, putting the stock in some ice cube containers, and then you have it in a small contained area and you can reuse it at another time. Yeah. What else have I heard? I think trying to use a little bit less plastic in your home or even while you're shopping. So before you even enter the store, have your own cloth bags to carry your food in. And reuse, if you are using plastic bags for certain things, reuse them a lot. And you can purchase certain bags just for that. I've gotten away from plastic too in getting glass containers to store leftovers in. and that's good too. Let me think. What else can I say about food?
I look for, when you go to look for yogurts, the whole display basically is plastic except for one brand, OUI.
Comes in a jar.
Yeah, so I have my wife go get those all the time.
Yeah. So you're trying to get foods that don't have a whole lot of packaging that can't be recycled. For instance, the last time I was at Pahrump trying to recycle some things, I found out that you can't recycle the plastic container that carries blueberries. I didn't realize that. I was recycling them. The guy had me take it out. So for at least here in Pahrump, they can't recycle some of that type of plastic as well. So what we're trying to do is just step a little bit lightly on Earth and not send so much stuff to the landfill. Try to use whatever we have. If we can't use it, there's also other ways to think about it. Perhaps you have a garden and you somehow produced a whole bunch of tomatoes that you can't use all yourself. Well, there's a gleaning program in town, the NyeCC Communities Coalition gleaning program. And what they do is try to find people that have excess produce from their gardens and match it up with a food pantry. So at least somebody can, use it. And at a certain point, sometimes the produce too is beyond use for human consumption, but there might be chickens or other livestock that can use it. So start, thinking big, look at the whole picture, be mindful of how you're using some of these things, because we want to tread lightly on planet Earth, And if you want to talk more about this stuff, Earth Day is coming up. You guys know about that, John?
That's the 16th. We will be having an event at Ian Deutsch Memorial Park. Actually, next week we'll have a program on that. And we started this in 2003. Took a couple of years off because of the pandemic. But you will be there, and many people will be doing good earth-friendly things over there. And we'll save most of that for next week, because I have a whole slew of things that we'll be looking at. So I'll name them next week. But we'll be passing out. There you go. We saved that from last week. We'll be passing out Chicago-style hot dogs as a way to bring you in there. So those of you from the Midwest, you come there for a hot dog. They'll bring you in there if nothing else will. So you were mentioning earlier about plastics, trying not to use plastics. I went to Smith's just before I came here, and if you ask for, or if you go to the self-service counters, they have paper bags. So you could take yourself a paper bag, just like in the olden days, and take that home with you. You could reuse that again also 2 or 3 times unless you rip it. But they've gone over and above and brought out paper products if you so choose. So kudos to them.
And I did mention composting, and really good if you have your home garden. But I thought I would have a friend here, Master Gardener, talk a little bit more about composting, because if you've never done it before, it's good to have some guidelines. So can you tell us a little bit about how you start?
Yeah, sure. As Tamalyn mentioned, there's often a lot of waste of your fresh fruit and vegetables that end up being not so fresh. And so you can keep a little container, little separate dedicated Tupperware container if you like, or tin or metal if you want to keep away from plastic. It just needs to be even this big, and put all your trimmings, from your prepping your fresh fruit and veg, put it in there. And if you can chop them up as small as possible, and the reason why you do that, so that there is more surface area for all the good bacteria, all the good fungi-like bacteria to eat around the edges, rather than just, be one big fore edge. You could have lots of tiny little edges, the more little pieces it's chopped in. And that'll help it all break down. So chop it all up, keep it in this little container, and then go out to your garden somewhere, choose a suitable area. Can either be on top of the ground, or you could dig a hole and do it in the ground, or you could choose an area of proposed landscape or vegetable. Say if you're going to have a raised bed, you know, you could start the compost pile immediately in that area if you like. Empty your compost, your freshly chopped things. Now also preferably you have gone out and gathered or got a hold of somewhere locally and free horse or goat manure. Don't use cow manure because it's high in salts, and our native soil is already high in salts.
Yes.
So horse or goat manure, you got your chopped up compost, and preferably some native dirt, which is clay. And so if you can reckon on like a third of each of these things, so tip your little compost out on the ground, get a scoop of the manure and then a scoop of the native dirt, and kind of like scumble it all together. You want to make sure that all the little pieces of your chopped up vegetables, broccoli, tea leaves, eggshells, coffee grounds, all that. You want to make sure that it's all covered with the soil manure mixture, and just keep it moist enough just so that when the wind blows here in Pahrump, that it won't be blown over to your neighbours, because you don't want to waste your compost. And just keep doing that. And if you do that in the ground, just ditto, do the same thing in the ground, and then make a covering. Cover it over with some native dirt, or if you've got some wood chips, you know, to mark that designated space where you did that. I'll just demonstrate on the table. So say if you did that on Monday, then that's your new area that you've just done. Right, the next day, go and do it in this spot then, and so on.
Right.
Wednesday, go and do it in this spot, and so on. And what you're doing there is that you're going to be improving the soil, the structure, the texture, the drainage of that soil in whatever area you're doing it.
And that's it for this segment, and maybe we'll come back for a second segment. Thank you for watching. And welcome back to Community Viewpoint, to this segment. And we have Cherry McCormick still with us, and Tamalyn Taylor, and then you're stuck with me as well. And you were speaking before we went to the break?
Yes, about compost. What I would like to say, because it is really important to understand what you can compost and what you cannot. So I'm just going to run over maybe just half a dozen things that are really important. What it is okay to compost. I don't even know if I can even say grass clippings. How many of us have grass clippings? I don't know, but if you do, then sure. But the thing is with grass clippings, actually, a lot of people with lawns, of course, they put a lot of heavy fertilizer and all that on them. So it's up to you as to how comfortable you are with that. I mean, there's arguments that could say it all breaks down in the composting, you know, process, or set it aside. So that's kind of optional. Animal manure, we mentioned that. Animal manure, it is really important, from herbivores only. That is animals that only eat fruit and veg. Do not use manure from any omnivores, isn't it, who eat meat. So no dogs, no cats, no mountain lions, bears. Garden trimmings, from your little prunings, you can do that. If you come across any leaves, grab them. Wood chips or sawdust, that's okay. And hay or straw is fine, okay. So anything that like one screw you can use. Do not compost your yard trim is treated with pesticides. It's probably best stay away from that.
Yeah.
And don't use plants that like don't break down. Don't use oleanders, because I know there are oleanders
I was
in
going to
this
say
town.
that. You beat me to it. Yeah.
But don't use them. They're poisonous anyway, and they do not break down.
Yes.
That's the major one here. Here we don't use fireplace ashes because they're high pH, and our soil and water is already high pH.
Yes.
We're talking like pH 8 to 10. Just don't do that. Don't use, this is really important, do not compost anything with fats in it, no grease, no lard. Don't be throwing your old bacon in there or spam or donuts or cakes.
No spam?
Nothing.
Oh my God.
If you're lucky enough to eat spam, eat it all, don't compost it. No dairy products, no milk. Don't be tipping your milk or buttermilk into the compost pile. No milk, no dairy butter, no
Really?
yeah, no dairy products, because it's a fat, it's grease, it goes rancid. It's nasty.
Oh, yes, it does. Yes.
And no pet waste, we said that. Don't be using your soiled cat litter either. That's nasty.
Oh.
Swine, other omnivore waste, we said that as well. So that's the major ones of that. And if anybody wants to, I got some nice publications with this listed. If you think, well, I can't remember all that, do have nice publications, and we'll just say that's at the Extension Office.
Yes.
On the corner of Calvada Dandelion. And that's generally open Monday to Friday, 9 till 2, I'm going to say.
Do you remember the phone number there?
Yeah, the phone number there is 775-727-5532.
Yep. Got it. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So, well, and let's go back to what brought us here to begin with. The state launches the first Nevada Food Waste Awareness Month in April, and that's what you brought us here for. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be a webinar hosted by the Nevada Department of Environmental Protection.
Yeah, what I suggest, if you have a moment, is just Google some of this information here, and then what you'll come up with is a whole list of activities that will happen throughout the month of April that you can jump in on if you like. One of them is a webinar that starts tomorrow. I believe it's from 11 to 12, and it's all about kind of an overview about food waste in Nevada. So I'm going to do that, and I don't have the link for you right here, but again, if you would Google or go to, what's the whole name? Is it Nevada?
Department of Environmental Protection?
Yes.
Yes.
Or even putting in April Food Awareness Month, 2022, you're going to come up with stuff. So it's going to be pretty interesting. It's good to get inspired and to hear what people are doing around the state. And again, my little edge of expertise is basically just teaching eating smart, being active at the coalition, Nye Communities Coalition. And in that class, we do go over certain things about, shopping tips and prepping and preparing fruits and vegetables and things like that. So there's not much wastage, because as you may notice, the food prices have gone up along with the gas prices. So you really want to treat these foods as being a precious thing, and treat it with kindness and stuff. I think sometimes we're spoiled here in the United States as far as the type of food we have and the price and things. But I know the more I spend on, say, like organic produce, the more I treasure that and do not want to waste it in any form. So think about ways you can make the fruits and vegetables go further, or ways so that they don't go bad before you can use them. Would you like me to expand on that, or do you have?
Well, I had a thought, and if I don't say it right now, I'll lose it. Mm-hmm. Where did it go?
Uh-oh.
Oh, looking at fruit, vegetables, and things like that at your local markets and stuff, I look to see where it's produced, where you're buying it from, not necessarily because it's USA versus Mexican tomatoes or whatever, but look at your limes, lemons, your oranges, bananas, where they come from. You could have them that were produced, grown in North America, any place close, or you could buy them all and they were shipped all the way from South America, and then figure out how they got it here, and probably by ship, and what it took to get here, the price of the fuel, the methane that was expended from the fuel, from the distance that it traveled, or is that wasteful for the planet, for the environment? Yes, So if you can and you can afford it, try to buy the fruits and vegetables that are locally grown. Plus, they probably taste better.
What would complement that thought process, John, is that if we were to practice eating seasonal vegetables and fruits, you know, as one did, you know, in the past, you eat things that are in season. And typically, the fruit and veg that are in season are typically what our bodies like demand and crave as of the summer. I mean, how many times in the middle of winter have you felt like sitting on the couch and, oh gosh, I could murder a watermelon right now? I mean, you don't, do you? You're looking more for like hot chocolate or something. So seasonal stuff, you know, the juicy, fresh stuff in the summer, and then like the more hearty, like turnips, parsnips, potatoes, winter crops in the winter. You know, I don't know, mashed potato is good year round, but maybe we don't eat so much of it in the summer as we do the winter. So that's worth considering. And then that hopefully make, you know, cut down on like your production costs, your footprint, so to speak, your carbon footprint, so to speak.
Yes. I have a tendency to drink a lot more tea in the winter time. They like to hear that rather than my coffee.
Yeah.
But I have a craving for it in the winter time too, especially in the evenings.
Yeah.
But then another thing, the oranges. I always orange juice. I always look for the orange juice that's produced down in Florida, basically, because they're made by local Florida growers, and they're not from Brazil. Usually, you get the oranges from. So I'm very critical about my orange juice. So it's real orange juice. Florida natural or something, I usually buy that. You know, if you can afford it, fine. If you can't, you know, that's disregard what I just said.
Yeah, for the most part, if you purchase food that's in season, it will have better prices. That's where the sales will be. It just makes sense. Also, understanding this food system, you know, how far does the food come from, is really pretty important. And it's inspiring to me is that now we're actually teaching this to kids. I work a program that's in the school district, and we're talking about the food system. So it's called Produce Pick of the Month. And I come in with a different fruit or vegetable each month, and we talk a lot about the health benefits and all that kind of fun stuff. You know, also they get to taste it, which is really good. But we have this whole system where we're talking about, okay, we have the gardener or the farmer that grows it. And then it, you know, has to be picked. It has to be processed, you know, put labels on. So who does that? You know, it has to be transported. He was talking about a boat, you know, airplane, whatever. It has to be transported. Has to, you know, all these things that happen. Eventually it gets to the grocery store. But by then, you know, a lot of packaging, a lot of handling has happened. And so to have a kid understand that rather than just think that, you know, the orange comes from the market, it's really a powerful concept. We're trying to help them understand the whole deal about food from where it starts in the garden to where it gets to their mouth, kind of thing. Food to table, they call that. So it's pretty neat. We're starting to teach kids that now. That's
especially
good.
nowadays as we're moving away from food to table, because the kids are sitting there like this.
Right.
And how about let's go. You know what's good on TV? I watch How Things Are Made.
Oh, okay.
You find out where you get oranges from or how things are produced. But you have to be interested in things like that too. But it's very, very enlightening too. So How Things Are Made, and there's another one, something similar to that. They're very, very enlightening. So we have our last minute here. Thank you, ladies, for sharing all this with us. And so this is Nevada's first Food Waste Awareness Month from the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection. So please go Google that online to see about Food Waste 101, and you can learn a little bit more about not wasting food and what you can do as a consumer. And then next week we'll be talking a lot more about Earth Day, Arbor Day. So any last thoughts, ladies?
Well, we're all going to be there on Earth Day,
Yeah.
so please be there. It'd be fun to see you face to face. out of mask, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, vegetables and fruit at farmers market too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
Go
was going
there.
to say just quickly, if they're locally produced, local produced stuff, it lasts so much longer because it's fresher.
Okay, thank you. Bye.